Hey, welcome back to another episode of Rat Daddy Studios. Anyway, just wanted to give you guys a little brief explanation of what I do. A lot of new members. A lot of you guys don't know me. Some of you guys have been around forever. Or we've been friends for a long time. My career in modeling goes back as far as being a young kid. My dad and I built first model we ever did together. We built a monkey mobile, and that's kind of what got me hooked on not only models but show rods in general. I always loved the old show rods and show cars from back in the 60s and 70s, so that was a start for me. And my first model I actually built by myself was a Zinger Corvette, and still love that stuff. And I'm good friends with Denny Johnson, who invented the Zinger model kits. He's a very good friend. I still love his work. He's still building models at 80 years old. He's just a great guy. But that was kind of the start of the love affair. And then I grew up building mostly Tom Daniel kits for Monogram. When I was in my early 20s, I got to be friends with Tom. Still friends with him. Tom, I think, is 88 years old now, and just such a great artist, such a good guy, and such a good model builder, or model designer, I should say. I'm not sure if Tom ever built anything as far as the kits, but and slot car designer, and just a great artist in general, and a good friend. But that stuck with me. I built mostly cars and bikes. I built military stuff a little bit as a kid, basic kits, and but most of my life I've been building cars and bikes, and I did that all the way through until about the year 2000. I started building my real 32 Ford, and I slowed down on the model stuff and concentrated a lot of work. I actually had a huge collection of really sought after model kits at that time. There was no reissue program at that time, and some of those model kits were bringing huge amounts of money. A lot of the old show rod kits, I sold more than one of those for $600-700, that were sealed kits back then. So I sold a lot of my collection off, sold off most of my slot cars, a good amount of my Hot Wheel collection, which I'd also had about 7,000 Hot Wheels at the time, and I collected mostly red lines back then. So I sold a lot of that stuff off when I was in the process of building my real 32 Ford, and no regrets. I love that car. I drove that car every day after I finished it until 2010, and then I sold it because I needed the money. My business here was not as great as it had been, and I just needed the money, and it was a cash cow. So I sold that, and was still kind of a little out of it with the whole hot rod thing at that point. I think I was a little pissed because I had to sell my car, and so I quit building model cars and bikes because I was just kind of burnt out. I think too. I built so many of them, and especially show rods in that probably the last 20 years. So I decided to build some sci-fi stuff, which I love because I love Lost in Space and a lot of the old TV shows, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. So I started concentrating a lot of my efforts on some of those type of kits, and a lot of that stuff was coming out. Of course, we had the really great kits. We had the Polar Light kits of the Jupiter 2 itself, and then Mobius came out with the large scale kit of that. So, and the Chariot. So I started building that stuff, and I had in the middle of doing research for that particular kit, I found one of my old high school high school friends, Simon Marks. Found him online, and Simon was always a huge sci-fi fan, especially Star Trek, and he is the Star Trek guy. He is an incredible builder, and I looked him up and went back up to Daytona to visit him. Literally 20 minutes up the road, 30 minutes from me, and he really showed me a lot with how to do lighting and fiber optics, and taught me a lot of it. And after I'd built a few things, he told me I really should start marketing myself, which I wasn't sure about that, but I needed a break. So I quit building model cars and bikes, and from 2000 until 2010, I built mostly sci-fi stuff for other people, and I did a few kits for myself in between, which I'll show you a few of those. I have this cabinet still in my office down here, and one of the first things I built was this Star Wars ship here with a lot of fiber optics in it, and lighting, engine lighting, and along with this other stuff. I've got everything lit right now, but I'm going to go ahead and turn the big light on Sorry for the dust on the front of it. This is in my shop in my lab. But I built a lot of space stuff. I did a lot of really large scale stuff. I did some studio scale stuff for some of my clients. So Star Wars, Star Trek, all with lighting. A lot of them with sound. There's some Lost in Space stuff, and just a little bit of everything. Some horror stuff. Of course, I love Iron Man. I'm a huge Iron Man fan. Lost in Space Chariot, which is absolutely one of my favorites. I've built 3 of those. That is a tough kit to really get the details into, but that was one of the first Jupiters. The small scale ones I did. I built 2 of the large scales and sold them consequently. I got quite a bit of money out of those. And I did a lot of prop replica stuff like this Lost in Space laser rifle, which that's a garage kit. But that's the kind of stuff I did for about 10 years, and until I got burnt out on that, because it really is time consuming. I would spend, sometimes some of those big Star Wars and Star Trek kits would take, 300 to 400 hours of work, and that involved a lot of evenings, a lot of work, a lot of time away from family, and I finally just got burnt out on that and decided to get back into building more for myself. So that in 2020, I kind of hung it up, and of course I have my website, Rat Daddy Studio website, which that's what I worked off of to sell a lot of that stuff, and it's been good. I still have the website up, so you guys can catch that. It's ratdaddystudios.com. I got that name from my daughter Ashley, named me Rat Daddy. Of course, I've always been a huge fan of Ed Big Daddy Roth, and here in town, here in the Daytona area, it was Carl Smith, who was Big Daddy Rat, the Rat's Hole t-shirt company, which I grew up hanging out in that place, and that's when I got so hooked on doing airbrush work. And of course I have some of that stuff on the wall here. These are original t-shirt designs from the Rat's Hole, some of the original brochures and stuff from there. And I had become friends with one of the actual people that started the original Rat's Hole, Henry Gerson, who was an incredible airbrush artist, such a great human being. Henry's just such a talented man, and he's just such a nice person. Him and his wife Mary both have been really nice to me, and I've got some of Henry's stuff up here on the wall. It's one of Henry's original t-shirts from way back, and this one was done by John Mitchell, who's one of our newer, more incredible artists. I tell him he's the Ed Newton of art, today. He's so good. He has such a natural talent. He's so good, and he did that particular piece of Sonny DePalma for me a couple of years ago. He's just such a talented artist. Really love his work. But at any rate, so that's where I've come from. I have always been an artist, and my artwork is carried over into my models, and I love good paint, and I love candy paint and metal flake and all that crazy car culture stuff. I've been a big part of the custom culture car movement for probably the last 25 years. That's where my head's been, and I keep going back to it, even though I did all the sci-fi stuff and it was fun. I have to go back to that stuff because that's what I really and truly love. And you can see here on my desk I've got these are some of the miniature Tom Daniel die casts and models. I had at one time almost all but 2 kits that were ever done by Tom Daniels for Monogram, and was missing a couple. This is a large scale, kind of a Ghost of the Red Baron that I did. That's a full size one. This helmet was done by Mark Harmon, and a friend of mine milled that base, that aluminum base that's sitting on. But I had pretty much everything Tom had made, and that was one of the things that I did sell when I was building my car too. Was I sold most of my Tom Daniel collection. I still have most of my build-ups from that era, and I have some die-cast stuff that's been done by Tom over the year from either Hot Wheels. I have all my original Hot Wheels, have some of the newer stuff that was done, and some of the larger scale, which of course in the cabinet behind me you can see some of the larger scale stuff along with a few other things. All of this stuff. I've always loved toys, always been a toy collector. I've just always been involved in buying and selling toys really since I was a kid, because I had some good friends as a kid who were antique people. The Nutty Mads, of course, had those as a kid and still have a collection of those. So I just can't get my hands out of it. It's what I do, and I love it. I still love doing it, but I just wanted you guys to kind of see where my head's at and what I like to do. So met some great people here the last few months on YouTube. I've been trying to step up my YouTube channel a little bit more, and really appreciate all the new subscriptions and all the nice comments and stuff. That's what keeps me going. I'm not a contest builder. My models are far from perfect. I love building. I love trying to make them as good as they can possibly be. Every time I build, I try to step myself up. That was a lesson from my good friend and mentor of many years, Sonny DePalma. He pushed my model building a lot and my paint work, and he taught me a lot before he passed away. So I carry a lot of that into my work. So as far as my paint and what I do, of course, I love rat fink. You guys probably have figured that out by now if you've looked at some of the videos. Anything Roth and rat fink, I love that stuff. My favorite artists, Von Franco. I really love Doug Doerr's work, really talented artist. If you guys aren't on Instagram or Facebook or following some of these guys, you should check out their work because they're really good. John Mitchell, who's Drag Daddy. John's on there. Just really, really fantastic work. So you guys should check them out. But anyway, just want to kind of let you take a look at where I'm at and what I'm doing. I actually, my studio per se is in pretty much 3 different places. I do some work here in my office. This is my lab. I have an optical shop. And in my lab, of course, I spend half my life here. So I have surrounded myself with all of this stuff, memorabilia and stuff, because it makes me happy. And a lot of things from friends that friends of mine have done for me. And I like it being here. At home, I have a display area, with some of my stuff in my family room, and I have a very, very small area that I work in a walk-in closet upstairs in my house, and then my paint studio is in my garage, so I have everything set up with all my paints and my airbrush work and bins for different steps of development with my kits and my resin casts that are out there. I'm doing a lot more 3D printed stuff now. I'm not printing it, but I have some good people that are printing some stuff and that I've gotten hooked up with, and some really cool stuff. I'm just amazed by the 3D printing, and I think we're going to continue to see a lot of really excellent stuff in the future as that technology progresses. I don't think we'll ever see styrene models go away, and the cost is a big part of it. The 3D printed stuff, not all of it's cheap. I've gotten some very fair prices, and I've gotten really screwed on some stuff too, and so have some of my friends. But if you want it, it's what it is. I'm not smart enough. I'm too old to learn how to do 3D printing or CAD or any of that stuff, so I have to depend on these people to do it. But I still love styrene model kits. I still love resin cast garage kits that people do. I'm just amazed at how good some of the garage kits are. And one of the biggest models that I've ever built and most detailed, and probably some of my best work, was a garage kit of a Star Wars X-Wing fighter, huge studio scale, and it took me months and lots of scratch building and lots of electronics, and just huge model built on a big metal armature. One of the best things I've ever built. I loved it. It's in a good friend of mine, Todd Morton's collection, and just really such a great piece. And it was a garage kit. I mean, a fan, a Star Wars fan, developed this massive kit, and it's on my website. If you go to the website and check it out, and you can see a lot of my builds from the last 15 to 20 years are on there anyway, so you can take a look at a lot of that stuff. But in the meantime, hope you guys keep building. Hope you enjoyed this. And I'm going to continue doing some stuff. I'm working on some stuff right now. Actually, I got down here right now. I'm working on this resin kit, which was done by Screamin' Models probably over 20 years ago. I think late 90s. This is Betty Page in Orbit. And these have become pretty hard to find. And this looks kind of creepy right now because I haven't painted her face. But working on that piece. That's a large-scale resin piece. And as usual, I'm working on some more rat finks. I got some of those guys taped off in here. I'm getting ready to do some more airbrush work on those. Probably tonight, put some color on those. And I am constantly, I keep a lot of work down here. shift knobs. There's some shift knobs in here. Figures that I'm working on for my dioramas. Got those, and I keep a handful of shift knobs down here that I'm doing hand paint work on, like this one from Jimmy Flintstone. I've got the basic airbrush work done, and it's ready for more brush painting before it's cleared. And I usually generally have probably 30, 40, 50 pieces of that stuff laying around, either from Jimmy Flintstone Studios or from Van Chase Studios. Really good stuff. But those guys, good guys to deal with, and they make great products, so you might want to check them out. Anyway, I will talk to you guys soon, and thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.